Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Eddie Jennings from EJSLLC.com. This video is another in my practice session series for the Red Hat EX374 exam, Red Hat Certified Specialist in Developing Automation with Ansible Automation Platform. Before I dive in, I want to thank returning subscribers for watching another video, as well as invite anyone who's watching, if you haven't subscribed, to click the subscribe button. And if you enjoy the video or find it useful, make sure you click like. Also a reminder that these are my practice sessions prior to the exam. They are not intended to be training materials, nor are they intended to be tutorials, but rather they're an opportunity for me to talk about the objective and try some examples as a self-test. And at the end, hopefully I'll feel pretty confident about it. If not, I have just over 2 weeks before my exam. So that gives me a little bit of time to brush up and cover some skills gaps if they are there. That being said, I do try to have the information as accurate as possible. So we're moving into the Manage Task Execution section of the objectives, and we're going to look at control privilege execution. For some reason, thought that said escalation, but nope, control privilege execution. And this is, at least my interpretation of it, is talking about become, as far as escalating your privileges when you are working with your playbooks and such. So what I'm going to do is actually create a config file using the method that is just dumping all of the different settings. So if I recall correctly, that'll be Ansible config. I think it's init, all disabled. I think that's it. But when in doubt, -- help is your friend. Yeah, init. Maybe there's more to init. Thought it was -- all and -- disabled. Yeah, here we go. It's -- type all and then -- disabled. And what that will do is basically give you all of the possible configuration things you can put in your config file. So Ansible config init type all disabled, and we're going to dump it into ansible.cfg. And what this will do is basically give us a configuration file of everything that you could possibly want. When I'm working in the real world with Ansible, I'm not writing configuration files all the time. I basically write the config file for the environment that I'm going to work in, and generally I don't have to touch it after I've tuned all the stuff that I want. So be able to use that Ansible-config and dump a default config file is very useful when you need to try to remember some individual little things. Like some things, you work with enough, you don't forget, like the inventory value or remote_user, or in one of the things that we're going to work with, become. But there are other things that you're not going to touch often enough to really have committed to memory. So I'm not going to go into what become is. I haven't dove super far into privilege escalation. There's more than one method to do that. The one that you're probably going to be using by default is sudo. And so basically when you specify become for your playbook, you are going to elevate to usually the root user and do your tasks. Your account that you're connecting to your managed nodes on is usually going to have passwordless sudo privileges, which will allow it to escalate to root. And you can configure a lot of that as far as you don't necessarily escalate to the root user. You might escalate to a different user, and there are some other things that you can dig into. But what I'm looking for should be a section for privilege escalation. Why don't I just search for it? Yeah, this is what I'm wanting. All right, so what I'm going to do. See, we're on line 521. I'm going to delete 500 lines. I'm going to bring defaults back in a minute. Delete 20 lines. All right, so these are all the privilege escalation things. And you can set these either at the configuration level. You can also do some things at the play and task level, which I'll demonstrate as a part of working with this objective. And we're going to clear a little bit of this out. Let's see, I think, there we go. Now, typically become, I would not set this to true at the config level. You can, but by default it is set to false. But if let's say that for whatever reason you wanted to always run your playbooks and you wanted to run your playbooks with elevated privileges, and you never wanted to have to specify that, we can specify this as as true in the configuration. So we'll go ahead and do that. Become method. There are various methods to use. The one I'm the most familiar with is sudo. I'm not going to stress too much about the different methods of privilege escalation. I think that may be kind of outside of scope for what this exam is doing. Hopefully I'm right. Otherwise I will be kind of screwed. And typically when you are becoming with this, you are going to become root, but this is all configurable as well. So we're going to set this to true at the config level. Let me do defaults here. And I'm going to set remote user, if I can type, to Ansible, and inventory. It's just going to be a file named hosts. All right, so I'm going to make me an inventory out of my host file real quick. This is nothing special. This is just using some grep and some knowledge. So I'm going to grep AAP from etc hosts. I know that the second field of this is going to be the fully qualified domain names. So use cut, and we're going to dump that out to hosts. All right, so those are all of our all of the different managed nodes that I have available in my little lab here. And let's see. And then we're going to do Ansible. I'm pretty sure Ansible is the user I want. We can test this real quick. Yeah, so I got my passwordless, passwordless, but I'm using authentication keys. So let us make a quick little playbook here. We'll call it foo.yml. And we're going to test some privilege escalation here. So we're going to do name, testing, escalation, and hosts. We're going to run this against everything. And we will do tasks, name. And I could probably do this with Ansible facts, but I'm specifically wanting to run the whoami command. So Ansible built-in shell command is whoami. We're going to register that. Show results. Use debug for this. We're going to do results std out. All right, and let's see what happens. All right, notice how the standard out is showing that we are root when it has run whoami. Now, if I were to do this, use limit. I'm just going to run this against AAP get. Pretty sure limit's going to do what I want. And yeah, we're just going to run this against that host, but I'm going to do VVV. So we are connecting as Ansible, which is what we had in the configuration file. However, the user that we're at is root, and that is because we have privilege escalation set for at the configuration level become true. I can set this back to what default would be, or I could just comment that out. And if we run the playbook again, should tell us our user is Ansible. And it does. Now, probably remember this from if you have done an RHCE like I did, this is one of the things you learned about. But part of this exam, you're kind of reviewing a little bit about what you did with some of your earlier Ansible training. If I were to go into playbook, or not playbook, foo.yml, if you wanted to, you could set this at the play level, which is what I often not become true. We see we're root again. You can also do it at the task level. So this is actually something I have used in my work. Who are you again? Built-in shell, cmd whoami, register results to, and for our variable, we'll do this. We'll change it to message, vi being annoying, with escalation, without escalation. This is just going to be one string of words. Results to standard out. And we're going to set become true. And we're not going to set become for the second one. And let's see what happens. This time we'll limit it again to just one of the hosts, because it'll have the same behavior on all of them. Oh, misspelled my variable. So let's try that again. Results, yeah, misspelled it there. There we go. This should work better. So with the escalation, we were root. Without it, we were Ansible. So that's setting it at the task level. You can set it at the play level. Probably have done that forever. And you can set it at the configuration level. So I think that's really about it. I mean, also, you can specify -B when you're doing Ansible playbook if you wanted to do that for your entire playbook. And let's test that out just to make sure it will do what I want. What we'll do is get rid of it for this. So both of these should show root if I do -B. Yeah, root, and then without the -B, or I think -- become is the long form, they'll both be Ansible. Now you can do some stuff actually within your automation, Ansible automation platform. Let me log in. This, by the way, you actually have access to, I have learned, through our Red Hat developer subscription. So that's usually how I have access to my RHEL VMs for all my practicing and such. And I was doing some other little testing yesterday. And within your project, I believe, no, I don't need to sync. I thought you could do that here. It might be within job templates. Let me see. Let me start making a new project and see if it does what I think. I may have been thinking of, yeah, I'm thinking of job templates. So let's add a job template. Well, so I thought, I distinctly remember there being something within the actual automation platform where you can decide your privilege escalation. Oh, here we go. Well, no, that's not what I'm looking for. Let's see if I can find it. It's not going to be in credentials. I thought it would be in this. Let's just fill this out here. Test. I don't have it. Yeah, I made an inventory. I forgot about that. We'll use my test project. What I was testing was whether or not it's smart enough to know about different types of YAML files, and it's looking for that. And I also just threw some files in there without .yaml, whether or not it'll try to think of it as a playbook. Have I set credentials? No, I haven't set credentials yet. The reason why I'm thinking of this is when I was doing my training in the lab environment that we had, I was able to do some more configurations of privilege escalation. Got tags here. This is bothering me. I have privilege escalation enabled. Is that something that we do as a part of a machine credential? I can't imagine that. This is just going to be, oh, it is. That's what it was. Interesting. I was thinking it was the thing. So here, if I was making a machine credential, which this would be, if you're running your job templates, you have your execution environment, all that good stuff. This is how it's going to, how Ansible Automation Platform would authenticate to your managed nodes, and it's where you put your SSH stuff into here. And this is where I guess that would make sense, because the user that you are connecting as when you're running your playbook is the user that is going to be using one of these methods. And as you can see, there's a variety of methods to use to become whatever user that you would need. And by default, you would be doing sudo and root. So I did want to show that. I'm not going to demonstrate. I don't have anything written and ready to go to do with actual automation platform. I'll probably do that in some other videos. But I think for the concept of where to define when you can do privilege escalation, I think I'm pretty set with that. Let me look at the objective once more. Make sure I'm not misreading it. Control privilege execution. I'm assuming that's what it is. So I will consider this a pass if I have to determine on the exam when you become with your various execution times. So hopefully you found this video useful. If you did, make sure you click like. I want to thank returning subscribers for watching another video. And if you're watching and you haven't subscribed, do click that subscribe button and ring the bell. As always, thank you for your time, and I'll see you the next time.